Owen Hicks is an emeritus professor of the University of Western Australia, worked as a senior consultant with the Australian Learning and Teaching Council, and consults across Australian universities and overseas on teaching, learning and curriculum development in higher education. Aiming to contribute to the development of education in other countries, for many years, Professor Hicks has joined the Australian Volunteers for International Development AVID program and taken assignments in East Timor, China and Vietnam. After finishing his assignment in Quang Ngai province, Professor Hicks decided to take on another assignment and has worked as a foreign language teacher for students and teachers at Tan Trao University in the city of Tuyen Quang. Hello everyone, and you're watching Sharing Vietnam on VTC 10 Net Viet. The guest speaker of today's program is Mr. Owen Hicks. Thank you so much for joining Sharing Vietnam today. I know that before working at Tan Trao University, you used to be a volunteer in the central part of Vietnam. So may you share with us about that experience?
I was working in Quang Ngai at the Phan Văn Dom University in Quang Ngai. I worked with staff of the university, basically teaching English, but I worked in co-teaching, so I had about 12 teachers who I would work with in class, and that worked very well because it gave them a chance to see me teaching as you would, so no demonstration teaching, but teaching with a normal class. It also gave me a chance to see Vietnamese teachers teaching as they would. And we learned a lot from each other, and it also meant that the things that the Vietnamese teachers did best, they could do, and the things that perhaps I did best, I could do. And I think the students were the winners in that experience.
It seems like you enjoy living in Vietnam, and that's why you decided to join another assignment and becoming a foreign language teacher at Tan Trao University in Tuyen Quang province, a province in the northern part of Vietnam. So how has it been living and working in Tuyen Quang province?
I'm here with my wife, and we've really had a wonderful time in Vietnam, not just in the work sense, but also with the community. The community have taken us in, and we have really been part of the community. We have been to weddings and funerals and births where culture allows. We have had so many experiences and been helped when we are lost about what to do culturally, but also allowed to share great food, great company, even though when we first got here, and to some extent now, we are very limited with language because we can speak just a little Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm. What type of accent? Just like the central Vietnamese or the northern Vietnamese?
Yeah, well, we start with a central Vietnamese accent and then we shift to the north, and people laugh because we use words like ao dai. They say no, ao dai. I think now our little Vietnamese is more northern accent, but certainly it started as a central Vietnamese accent.
What are your comments on the quality of English teaching at Tan Trao University 1 year ago when you started your assignment?
There are so few native English speakers in the province where I work that almost anything I do is unique. Because I'm a native English speaker, I can relatively easily see the good aspects of people's use of language, but I can also see the difficulties. They jump out at me. I actually work with a broad range of teachers at the university. I do work with the students as well, but I'm working with teachers who are teaching in disciplines across the university, teaching in different subject areas, But I also then work with the foreign language faculty teachers specialising in English, and we do perhaps more detailed aspects of English language teaching with them. My main focus is on listening and speaking, and I have a whole range of activities that I use to engage very much with the class, whatever sort of class it is, to see them speaking and listening in class. But I also work with the senior staff of the university.
Approximately 50% of Tan Trao University students are from 23 different ethnic minority groups. So does that fact create any difficulties in teaching English for the students?
First of all, I would say, from my observation, the students in class get on well together. Some students from ethnic minority groups that are located typically in the highlands areas, those students may not be living with their families. They may have come into the town, and so they don't have the same level of family support, and they may not have the same material goods that some of the town students would have, but they're keen to learn, very keen to engage with foreigners, and I think their enthusiasm to learn makes up for other disadvantages they might experience.
During his time in Vietnam, Professor Hicks has always been accompanied by his beloved wife. Both in Quang Ngai and Tuyen Quang, Mr. and Mrs. Hicks have been immersed in the local community, developing friendships with neighbors, colleagues, and other community members. They have had unforgettable memories in Vietnam.
My main role is supporting my husband, so I've been exploring the markets and getting to know the neighbours and trying to cook Vietnamese food. Professionally, I'm actually a librarian, so I've been able to do a bit of voluntary part-time work at the university library. And so I go in there part-time, mainly to catalogue English language material. They have a few hundred books in English that have been mainly donations. Some of it is material purchased for teaching, but a lot of it is donated by publishers to the university, I guess. So I've been happy to go and do that. I've really enjoyed it. And as well, I was able to contact library colleagues back in Australia, and I managed to get a couple of libraries to donate cataloguing tools for the library staff to use in their cataloguing in the library at Tan Trao. So that was quite good too, yeah. And occasionally I go in and visit classes and participate in discussions and answer questions, and the students interview me just to practice their spoken English. Vietnam is a fabulous country. It's very diverse. The countryside itself is very different. There are different parts that are fascinating and wonderful to visit. The people are very friendly, very welcoming, very helpful, very inclusive. We have really felt welcome and part of the community, and I really enjoyed getting to learn a bit about the local culture and the local people, and just enjoy being part of the community. Some friends have showed me how to make a few things. Yes, I've made ban sao and măng cuốn. It's been a really great experience learning to cook.
So up to now, are you satisfied with what you and other students of yours have achieved for the last 1 year?
It is very pleasing to see students being much more spontaneous in their speaking. One of the challenges, I think, in English teaching in Vietnam is to shift people from an approach where they learn by heart certain passages, but to get them to say something spontaneously, to get them to really have a conversation, is for many students, a real problem. And I'm always pleased when someone gets beyond the rote-learnt interaction that they have and will have a little conversation. And there is more evidence of that at Tan Trao University, in my interaction with students, in student-to-student interaction. So that's pleasing to see.
Apart from working at Tan Trao University, I know that you also spend time to write articles about what you have witnessed and observed in Vietnam. So may you share with us more about that?
Yeah, we have been on a number of assignments in different countries around the world, and for a volunteer, just to keep track of who they are and what they're doing and where they're from and who they're now with, I've found it useful to keep track of that through emails that have photos of experiences we've had, and tell, I hope, an engaging story about the sorts of experiences we've had from a very personal point of view. But they're useful to me, and it seems they have been very interesting for people in Australia, because they will say, we get a real feel for what it must be like living in Vietnam through reading your monthly emails. Sometimes what's unique about a volunteer's experience is not what you experience at work. It may be what you experience in the street. It may be interacting with children in the street. And that might seem trivial, it might seem sort of incidental, but it can be really most significant and most lasting.
One thing make your assignment in Vietnam more special is that you are accompanied by your wife, and it makes everything much easier and your life in Vietnam much more interesting, right?
It certainly does, yeah. We have often reflected, the two of us, how difficult it would be if we were here on our own. I was at a meeting yesterday and I made the point, because I was giving a presentation, I made the point of saying, I would like to acknowledge my wife because if she wasn't here, I wouldn't be here. She provides enormous support to me and allows me to do the work that I do. In some circumstances too, I was going to say useful. You can interact with the community as a couple, where it might be a bit more difficult if you were single.
So you will finish this assignment in May 2017. From now to that moment, what is your plan in order to leave behind the legacy?
I would like to see my students feeling more comfortable with using the language and being able to use it spontaneously. I would like them to have the confidence to use the language more, to use English more, because a lot of it is confidence. I talk to them about learning from mistakes, that we do learn from mistakes. Mistakes are not a problem. Mistakes, you've got to get out there and make the mistakes, otherwise you won't learn.
Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Owen Hicks, for joining Sharing Vietnam today, and we hope that you will have the fantastic 6 months left in Vietnam.
Thanks so much. We've enjoyed our time here. I'm sure we'll have a wonderful time in the next 6 months. But it will be difficult to say goodbye to so many friends that we've made, both in Tuyen Quang and earlier in Quang Nai. Thank you.
That's all we have for Sharing Vietnam for today. Thank you so much for watching us. If you have any questions or recommendation, please email to sharingvietnam@netvietTV.net. Thank you for watching and see you next time.